Hello and welcome.
Good morning.
This is the 8123 podcast. I am Pat.
I'm Garrett.
We are 2/5 of a band called the Maine. And again, like I said last week, we mainly play in a band and we sometimes podcast.
Today on In Your Ears is Rian Dawson from All Time Low.
Yeah, one of the best dudes we've ever met from being in a band.
Yeah, great guy, great smile.
Great smile.
This conversation kicks ass.
Yeah, we had so much fun talking to him, and I think we definitely talked about things I've never heard him or the band talk about ever.
Yeah, and I don't know, it had such a good. I remember when it was over, I just looked at you and I was like, "That was really great. That was a great conversation," and you felt good, and it was just all good stuff.
Yeah. So we will get to that in a second, but first, our band we just announced a tour.
We did.
Fry Your Brain with the Maine on tour all spring. So
with the Rex and the Technicolors.
Yeah, it kicks off early April into early May, and themaineband.com. You can check out the dates and come and watch us play some tunes.
Yeah, we're gonna play some weird stuff, I think.
Yeah, so.
At least I hope so. We've talked about playing weird stuff.
Yeah, we'll get weird.
I like getting weird.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah. So we hope that y'all enjoy the talk with Rian, and just stick around till the end because it just keeps getting better and better, and it gets a little deep for a second. I think it's kind of an emotional one.
We all have emotions,
yeah.
And you can definitely tell in this one.
Even if you're an all-time low, you know. Yeah. So
cool.
Even if you're in one of the biggest bands around. So cool. We'll enjoy the chat, and we'll be back in a couple days with another 8123 podcast. Later. Look at this, a true professional.
I'd like to start off by saying I'm using an SM7B into an API 512 into an 1176 compressor.
No, we're all set. It feels good. I sound good, I think. Yeah, it's working just fine.
You sound beautiful.
Well, I mean,
so beautiful. Nashville.
Heck yeah. How's are you working on anything right now, or what are you?
I am. I'm currently, I've got a band called How About No in the studio, which I think is from Austin Powers' line. And they're fun. It's like a throwback pop punk thing. And I definitely like to stay in that lane every now and again. But it's nice to, we just finished off with like more Nashville-y project a few days ago. And then obviously you guys were in the studio. So yeah, it's been busy here.
Hell yeah.
That's dope.
That's awesome. How were those New Jersey shows doing the record?
Man, it was cool. We kind of you guys know how it is. Sometimes you don't necessarily want to play songs that you wrote 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so we kind of had that mentality going into it. We were excited because the show sold out so quick, and we know the fans have been wanting us for a while. And that's always cool to go into. But, a lot of these songs, A, we've never played, or B, we haven't played in like 8-9 years.
Yeah.
So we had a rehearsal day the day before. It was actually my birthday, day before the first show. And kind of started running through it, and it was, I don't know, it was kind of like it brought a second life to the record. Like it's different listening to the record over 10 years and then being able to play it live and just play it with the guys you wrote it with and everything. It was a cool experience. And the first show, it starts with like this really fast palm-muted guitar, and as soon as that hit, the whole crowd went crazy, and it kind of like, oh, okay, this is why we're doing this.
That's
yeah,
awesome. Totally. Yeah, and it's like that's what's so weird is like when you make a record, like there's like, at least for us, like sometimes there's songs that like we've never played it as a band, like,
yeah,
you know, and then it's like
exactly
10 years later that you're playing it for the first time, even though people have heard it recorded forever. It's like so
yeah, they don't
weird.
know the difference, but you write a record and you're like, okay, well, we're going to tour on this, but we can only play 3 or 4 songs. We'll get the rest of them next time. And then next time you do a tour, you have a new record out, and you kind of forget about those other songs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking. It's so weird.
But it was cool, man.
Did it bring back like a lot of the like memories from making that record with Matt?
With Matt Squire, yeah, it definitely did. And it's kind of you realize after writing for 10 years and over 10 years that you weren't a good songwriter necessarily 10 years ago.
Or you just do things you never thought. Like that don't make sense
that don't make. That's exactly right. And it's like, okay, so we're playing these songs and like at rehearsal day, and I'm like, well, of course after verse 2 there's chorus 2, and we're like, oh no, that's where we put a bridge and then a guitar solo and then chorus 2. But it was one of the best things about Squire is that it was the first time working with like a real producer, and so and I said it to this band that's in the studio right now. I mean, I think one of the big differences between more amateur songwriting and more, not professional, but more like experienced songwriting is an amateur song kind of just sounds like parts. There are just parts in a song.
Yeah.
And then when you get more of a grasp of it, it doesn't necessarily need to be the same formula every time, but it still feels like there's a start and an end and everything in between makes sense. And Squire really, really taught that to us, and he let us still throw our weird parts in that didn't make sense. But I remember him saying at the time, like, you guys, this should really be a chorus here. And we're like, nah, you don't know, man. So he did let us have our moments, and then of course 10 years later we're like, shit, he's right. Yeah. But
how did you guys find Squire? Like what made you guys record with him?
He had done Cute Is What We Aim For, and then of course he had done Panic and The Receiving End of Sirens and all that.
Yeah.
And we loved those records, and I think we went in to do gang vocals once on like a Cute record or something like that, like just to help him out. And we met Squire, and then when it came time to do So Wrong It's Right, we had been working solely with Paul Levitt, and Paul Levitt knew this other producer, Brian McTurnant, who knew Matt Squire, and so we kind of just threw his name out there. He was in Bethesda, Maryland, which was about 45 minutes away from where we were.
Oh yeah,
and,
I forgot that. Then he was recording there still. Yeah, because when we worked with him, like he was out in LA. But
yeah. Where was it? The Lair, Red Bull?
The Lair. We did.
Yeah, love that place, man.
It is a cool vibe there. I loved it. So yeah, I mean, back then, you guys know, like, it was a big thing not to have to pay for hotels and not to have to pay for airfare. So we kind of threw our name in, and we kind of just thought, okay, there's no way this is going to happen. And it ended up, he had like a month and a half before he was getting married, and he had that open time there. And so, yeah, we just ended up doing the whole thing with him.
I mean, after you guys, he fucking did everyone. Like,
every
really single, did. I mean, everybody.
He went crazy, man. I mean, and I don't in a good way for a while. Like, he was just working his ass off. And,
I mean, he moved. Yeah, like literally, like that whole like scene of like our bands. All the biggest bands, all the biggest records. He was a part of it, and like
100%.
He got it. I mean, like the things that he did for us. I mean, he kicked our ass on that record. Like,
yes,
he fucking. I mean, I remember like wanting to cry at the end of pre-pro every day. Like, holy shit, dude, you're just like ripping us apart and making me play these parts that I can't play, and like just like, holy shit, like we suck, and like you're not
exactly
right. You're not holding back, like.
Yeah, it is. There was not a lot of like bedside manner. It wasn't like. I remember there was a time after a full like tracking day, and it was these were fast songs, and it was not easy for me at the time, especially. I was young and totally, like you said, I had never been through boot camp before, and I remember at the end I was like broken down a little bit, and I was like, "Fuck, man, my hands hurt. Like I can't play these parts." I was like emotional, and I was like, "Matt, can we just take a 5-minute break? My hands really hurt." And he's like, "Yeah, man, I'll go get you some Advil too." So he like was really super nice, and he comes back down. He throws a box of tampons and Midol at me and says, "He said, man, the fuck up."
Holy shit, that's brutal.
Oh.
So I was like, "Oh, okay."
Hey, he was the first person I ever heard this term. I never heard. I was, we're 17, and did he say cunt hair?
Cunt hair?
Yeah.
Yep.
I had never heard that before, and
nope.
It was crazy. It blew my mind.
Yes. And not only did he say it, he said it as if he was saying, "Have a nice day." Like it wasn't like, "Hey man, just like
So
a
confident.
little cunt hair." He would just be like, that part was cool. Just maybe a cunt hair, less energy on it. And I'm like, "What? What'd you just say?"
Shocking. It's just like, whoa.
And then by the end of the studio, you're like saying cunt hair to your family and everything. Like it's no big deal.
Oh God.
Oh man,
That's so funny.
Yeah, that's wild. But yeah, I mean, like that was just it was such a fun time, like going in and making like your first like actual album. You know, you're in and then like for you guys, how quickly after that did like things like when was the first like tour that you guys felt like, oh wow, like things are actually happening, like we're a real band? Because I think by the time that we toured with you guys the first time, it was the last tour on that album cycle. So like by then, like things were big, you know. But like in the early days of that record, like when did it start to take off?
I remember we did. I think it was before that record. Maybe as we were writing for it. Maybe it had been recorded but not released. But we did Tourzilla, which was a tour with Boys Like Girls.
Oh yeah.
Which is another Matt Squire band, by the way, and that was a great record. It is, the self-titled record. But we did that one, and we were opening, and I remember that tour feeling like, oh, like every time you'd done an opening tour before, nobody knew who you were. You were just a band on stage that maybe could sell 20 tickets in a local market or something like that. But I remember that tour. You know, we'd be in Canada, we'd be in Detroit or anywhere, and fans would be singing along, and I was like, oh, this is what it feels like to have a little bit of like riding a wave a little bit. You know, you feel the momentum behind you, and it's kind of pushing you forward. And I remember that excitement of just being like, these kids want to see us. They're not just tolerating us. Yeah. Which is, you know, a big difference and an important difference. But then after that, I think right after we put out So Wrong It's Right, I think it was around. And then we did the what was that tour? The AP tour with Rocket Summer, and we were co-headlining. It was us, Rocket Summer, The Matches, and Sonny Moore, who is now known as Skrillex.
I remember seeing you guys in Dallas on that tour.
Yeah,
yeah, man, yeah.
Oh, dude, that actually, what's crazy is because we were playing
upstairs.
Yeah, we were playing upstairs in some tiny tour, and I think that you were. Like, I remember Alex, like, saying from stage, and this is, like, before we had, like, met you guys, I think that you were gone for the first half of that show at, like, a wedding. And there was some other dude.
My brother's wedding.
Yeah, there was some dude playing drums, and then halfway through the show, you walk up and you start playing. Oh, man, that's funny. That's wild. Like, right. Like, what a weird, like, I'm sure that's the only time you've ever done that. Like...
Yeah. No, I don't make a habit of that.
You don't like playing half shows?
Well, I'd love to. It just doesn't seem to work well. I think that one was my wisdom teeth or something. I don't know, but yeah. I remember that. That's so funny. You guys were there.
Yeah. We were out in the crowd. Like, that's awesome.
But yeah, that tour, like, you know, it was the first time too where we felt, okay, we need to step up our game because we were co-headlining, and Bryce, who plays everything in the Rocket Summer, he can play. Like, the guy knows how to perform. He was a fair bit older than us and had been doing it for a little bit longer, and so that made us step up our game. And then from that point forward, you know, we pretty much have been headlining like 90% of the time, and so it was the first time we felt challenged. We're like, okay, we can't just play our songs over and over again and expect the crowd to be interested. We have to really give them more than just songs. You know, we have to give them energy, and they give us energy back. And it was a very good learning lesson to co-headline with a band that's been doing it longer than us.
Yeah, and like that's kind of something that, like, from the first time that we toured with you guys, like up until now, it's like you guys have this like I don't know if this is like the right term, but like you guys are like a professional band. Like Garrett, like you were talking about, like when we were in Manila, right?
When we did that Manila show, I remember watching you guys, and it was like seeing like Green Day or something. Like, you know, you guys are like,
because
no, but like I remember watching, and I was like, we can't fucking, we couldn't do this. Like, we can't play an arena and it like feel right. Like, you guys go up and it like you do it and you're putting on a show. Like, we're way too fucking loose to like play to an arena of people. Like, I remember walking off and being like, oh, that was interesting, and then like watching you guys like, oh shit.
Yeah, because
man, thank you.
because like we went to a Green Day show one time at the Boston Garden, and it was like you just see it and you're like you understand why they're in an arena, you know, like and
Right,
and, like
yeah.
and it's like this is pro in like the best way, where like our band I feel like sometime like feels like an inside joke that like that
Such
like
a good pull quote.
that like thankfully like a bunch of people have like gotten like they've gotten like insight on the joke, but like
Jesus, you couldn't be further from the truth. But no, I mean, thank you. I think I have to really tip my hat to Alex and Jack on that. I mean, obviously, as a drummer, there's only so much you can do to make yourself fit in the venue you're playing, and I think that my playing style does lend itself to that. You know, I hit stupid hard and with a lot of energy and all that. But Alex and Jack, there's something about the difference between in between songs and during the songs is vast. Like during the songs, you're right. They're just, I mean, we are tight. We've been doing it for a long time, and I don't feel bad saying that we're a good live band. Like whether you like the music or not, I know we're playing our songs correctly, and it's something we take seriously and we really work at. You know, it doesn't hurt that our songs are 3 chords and always in 4/4, but
So are ours.
yeah. But I don't know. In between Alex and Jack, it doesn't matter if they're playing to 10 people, 10,000 people, a festival of 50,000 people. They own the stage and they own the crowd in the sense that whether they're faking it or it's real, their confidence is just present. And I think that's what you see is just they're talking to this crowd like, oh, we belong here. Like, no, we don't fucking belong playing in front of 5,000 people, 10,000 people, 500 people. But somehow they just, I don't know, man. They just own it. And Alex as a front man is just such a gift that I get to play behind him because I could never do it. Like I remember going out on stage even now and being like, fuck, we shouldn't be here. And as a front man, if you think that, I think, you know, you lose everything.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
if there's a sense of, if the crowd gets a glimpse of, oh, this band doesn't think they should be here, they're gonna just latch on to that. And I remember like, yeah, the Manila show is a great example of just like, all right, how are we even gonna like speak to these people? How is this gonna work? There's way too many people. We shouldn't be here. And then within a song or two, I felt like, oh, I do belong here. And that's all because of Alex and Jack. And Zach obviously kills it too, but something about the way they handle the crowd just kind of sets us all, makes us feel right at home.
yeah, and I think like. But one of the interesting things that I always think about you guys is like, so people like, I mean, probably not so much anymore, but for a long part of your career, it was like Blink, it was like comparing you guys to Blink, but like when you guys play live, I mean, it's not that. I mean, like
Right.
you guys are so tight and like so pro and like put on this awesome show where like Blink is up there like fucking around, where
Right.
like you have Alex who, he doesn't cheat on any note. He doesn't,
No, yeah.
he like as like solid as you can be,
Right. Yeah, I think, I mean, the Blink comparison, it definitely, we started as a Blink cover band and we still shout out Blink in pretty much everything we do because they're the reason we started. But the main inspiration from Blink was less songwriting and less live performance and more just, oh, these guys can have fun on stage. It doesn't seem like they're at a funeral every time they play a song and like, okay, this next song is this. And we love that. Like with the energy, especially in our early music, we wanted to match that energy whether or not we were playing a song or not, whether it was playing a song or whether it was just chatting with the crowd, whatever it is. And that was the main Blink inspiration. But yeah, we don't, we obviously take a few things in our band very seriously that you have to be along and be successful. But the live performance is something we have always held paramount. Like we help when we do band practice, rehearsals, we lock in. And that's like, if there were fans that saw us, on stage and in interviews and we're always having fun and all this, and they came into like our rehearsal space when we're learning new songs, they're going to be like, oh, this is not fun at all. Like, this is the part they don't want us to see.
Guys are fucking dark. Yeah.
Yeah, jeez. Who sucked the life out of this room?
When the whip comes down.
Yeah. But that's the whole point too. And I think that's been a big part of our long career is just that we can play these songs live and not only play them, but like sort of just, it just make them better live. And I've always wanted to be a band that a fan sees us live and says, "Oh shit, that's better than the record," and so if we have to work a little extra hard to get that, then we'll do that. So, and thank you. That's a really nice compliment, by the way. All of this.
Yes.
Listeners should know that
man,
there was no contractual agreement that they have to compliment me.
This is true. I think like kind of along those same lines, and I think like we kind of like noticed it when we toured with you, but like I think the like professionalism kind of goes also to like the way that you guys handle yourselves on tour, and you guys kind of have this weird balance of like. It kind of feels like your crew feels like a frat of dudes hanging out, right? So like
Yes.
you have like all your buddies, which is like the same thing for us. Like like our crew is, some of them are dudes we went to high school with, and
of course.
you guys have the same thing. But then you also kind of have this like professionalism to everything, and like which like you've had the whole time, which is probably what's kept things alive. And what's kind of what's interesting is I think a lot of bands maybe that would like go on tour with you would maybe get the wrong idea of like the professionalism, and like then like when they went to do their own like their own headlining tour, it's like they could take the same concept that you guys have, but do it in a bad way to where like you become like an asshole and like a douchebag.
Yes.
Which is kind of like it's like the dude like at the club that's like trying to act like he's like from fucking Hollywood, but he's way more of a douche than like the actual guys in Hollywood.
Exactly.
Because they're like playing like a character.
It's a fine line.
Yeah.
It's and you're spot on with that. And I've kind of fallen into a position of this band where I really do have a heavy hand, if not the whole hand, in like the hiring and unfortunately sometimes firing of our crew. And you couldn't be more correct. I mean, our whole vibe with our crew is do your job, do it well, and then have fun. We don't care. Like if you want to have a drink and go do our front of house, if you want to drink some whiskey while being my drum tech, do it. I don't care, as long as it doesn't affect your work. And I don't like the hammer. Like I don't like that style of management or anything like that. Like you will present yourself in a professional manner from 8 a.m. to we walk off stage, and it just doesn't work. I want people to. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a job what these guys are doing, and it's a very important job. You guys know very well that you would not be able to do any of these shows without your crew. So, but it's still music at the end of the day. So still have fun. You're not an accountant. You're not doing stuff like that. So you can have fun and you can relax as long as you do your work. And I mean, most of the guys, like the story of my drum tech, Alex Greco, he's been with me for over 10 years. And the way it started was he was a year below us in high school. So we graduated in 2006 and Greco graduated in 2007. 2007, we were doing Warped Tour and we didn't have a merch guy. So I said, Greek, why don't you come out and sell shirts for us? We have like 2 shirts. And we're doing like 3 weeks of Warped Tour, whatever it was. And he's like, all right. And you guys know Greco. He's kind of intimidating at first. Like he's a bigger guy, like he's a strong guy.
Eyes.
And his eyes just bore into you like a drill. And so halfway through Warped Tour, we hear these complaints like, hey, I went to buy merch, but I was kind of afraid. And so I had to go to a different merch table. And so we were like, shit, we're going to have to fire Greek. And I really don't want to because he's my best friend. So we were about to do Tourzilla, the Boys Like Girls tour I was telling you about. And we were going to fire Greco and we were going to hire this guy to do merch instead. And I said, hang on a second. Oh no, we were going to hire this guy to be my drum tech. Because right now Greco's doing merch and we were going to hire this guy named Vinny Petrocelli to be my drum tech. And so I said, hang on, let me teach Greek how to tune drums and how to set up, cymbals, and we can put Vinny on merch. So neither of these guys have ever done anything like this before.
Yeah.
Greek has never touched a drum. Vin has never touched a T-shirt at this point. And we're like, all right. And so Vinny ended up being our merch guy for 6 years after that, 7 years.
I'm trying to imagine if that didn't happen and Vinny was your drum tech.
Oh my God! I think honestly we would not be a band. I think we would have broken up that tour.
I don't think you would have made it.
the whole professionalism statement you just made definitely wouldn't have happened. I can tell you that. But yeah, so I mean, from that moment, it was kind of like that kind of set us up on how we treat our crew. Like it wasn't less about let me see your resume, and it was more about do we like you as a person and can you do this job? And then that's kind of the tone it set for the rest of our career and the rest of our crew guys. Yeah. And then since then, you know, we've had, like I said, Greeks was 10 years. Vinny was over 6. Our lighting guy's been 8. We had Flyzik, the same tour manager, for 4, for 6, I'm sorry. And now this tour manager, Brian Southall, for 3. Like, we really try to keep our crew as part of the family.
Totally.
Yeah, and it's just it's so funny how people can, like, other bands that, you know, aren't that aren't in bands anymore could go on tour with you guys and open and like see what you do, and then just walk the line just the wrong way, and
ruin
then
it.
all of a sudden you're just like you're an asshole. You know?
Yes, it is such a fine line. I don't know how, and luckily, like, it's one of the best compliments I get from other bands that we take out on tour is your crew treated us so well, and we've never been treated so well on tour.
Yeah,
and yet they are kind of assholes, the crew, like in a very fun, sarcastic way.
Yeah.
So it is. We've somehow just mastered that line.
Yeah,
now.
and you kind of have to have those moments, like you know, like you were talking about when you guys co-headlined with the Rocket Summer. You know, like for us, it was like opening on the Good Charlotte tour, and just like seeing how those dudes run their band and their crew, and you know how they are. It's just like that. Literally, just that one tour changed the entire like the course of our band. It's like that's
our college, right? That's the way we learn.
Mm-hmm. And you like we're just like both very lucky that we are able to find like good people to like be that influence, because you so easily could have like fallen in the other trap.
Oh my God, you hear horror stories about like these pop tours and like even some of the metal tours on our scene and stuff like that. It's just like they did fucking what? Yeah. Like I can't believe it. Yeah. And yeah, you're like the Boys Like Girls tour I keep talking about. I remember that tour. There was this guy that worked for them. They called him Dan the Douche. I don't know why. He was a really nice guy. But I remember every morning, like for people listening, when you play venues, the bands walk in, they have no idea where they are. So a lot of the times you see the bands bring like laminated signs with them. It says all-time low dressing room this way, the main dressing room this way, catering this way. And I remember waking up every morning and seeing this guy, you know, just tape these signs on the wall and thinking, that is so cool. Like, I would love to have a guy on our tour that just, you know, every day I wake up, I don't have to ask anyone where everything is. And I remember for some reason, I was so transfixed on these signs. And then, you know, we didn't have them for like 6 years after that. But now I'm like freakishly just OCD with all of these signs. I'm like, Danny, no, this one, it's the wrong angle. How am I supposed to know if it's right or just up to the right a little bit? And it's like stuck with me. So, but that was like the first time I remember thinking to myself, I want, you know, I don't know. I just loved the idea of a crew just doing their job and doing it, either whether it's hanging signs or tour managing or accounting, whatever it is,
and being part of it,
doing it with such precision, and such tightness, and I love that.
Totally.
Yeah, that's rad. I think you know. So now what you guys have been a band for 15 years almost, or how long has it been?
I mean, we started in 2000. We started the band in 2003, so 14 years. Yeah, but. Yeah, 14, 15.
Yeah, it's kind of like what like we've been kind of talking about a lot, and like when we've like you know, talked to other bands on the podcast so far, and like pretty much every other band that we've talked to aren't in the band anymore. We did the Somerset and Rocket to the Moon and
I heard Halva. Yeah.
So it's like you know, one of the things is like why do you think you guys are in a band right now still? Like why didn't you quit when you know when things were hard? Because like it's for us, it's like, I mean, when we put out like Forever Halloween, like it felt like it was like a dark time in our band. It was like we're like going on tour and like the shows aren't doing what they had in the past, and you're not selling as many shirts as you were, and you know, I think there's like a like a lot of bands that go through that, you know, like whether
And
it's
stop.
whether it's like the Academy as a Rocket, or you know, all these bands that we're friends with that kind of like go through that, or they have a hard time with like with an album at a record label, and then they just quit, as opposed like they could have just kept like trying to like
Right. It could have just been a speed bump.
yeah. Like what's your take on that? Because you know, I'm sure you guys have had lots of ups and downs over the 15 years.
For sure.
And just like
it's one of those things that you don't know if like the success we've had has followed because of determination, or has determination followed because of ongoing success. Like, so we haven't had. I mean, we really haven't had too many dips. I mean, there has been that moment of like, especially when we put out, or the recording and release of the record Dirty Work, which was our Interscope record. That was the closest we'd ever come to like a dark point. And the truth of the matter was, like, internally we felt great, but externally everyone was saying, oh, this band's done. They've really fucked themselves with this record. You know, they've never done worse things before. And it was just this weird, I don't know, like this weird ball of confusion, and we didn't know, like, should we stop? Should we take a break? Should we do one of the hiatus things? And
wow, I didn't know that you guys actually had gotten to that point where like that was even a talk.
I mean, it wasn't quite like a talk. Like, we didn't want to break up, but there was so many negative. We'd never had that much negative press and negative outward feeling, and internally we're like, what's happening? Like, we're on a great European tour. Ticket sales are better than ever. We're doing more merch than ever. But everyone thinks we're done. And it was just, I mean, it was just a weird thing because it was so out of our hands. Like, that record has some of my favorite songs we've ever done as a band, and I absolutely love it. It was just mishandled by this label that didn't know. A lot of things with major labels is they are so good at molding a band and building a band from the ground up. And here we come in where we can do more ticket sales than a lot of their roster. We've been a band for longer than any band on their roster, and they didn't quite know how to handle that. So it just got, this record process, the Dirty Work, just got so jumbled up and so confused, and you're so, I don't know if you guys have ever had the experience, but we were so seduced by like everything they were saying.
Oh yeah,
was great, was just so great, and like, oh my gosh, of course, like, we need to believe them. Like, they've done this, they've done this, they've done this. This guy signed Jimmy Eat World. And so
how does everyone sign Jimmy Eat World? Yeah. Everyone I've talked to signed a fucking Jimmy Eat World.
I think every A&R has like, okay, are they a hip hop band? Okay, I can relate on this band. Are they a rock band? Okay, I knew Jimmy Eat World. Like, it's just like a checklist of what they've worked on, and they know like how to get to bands' hearts. But yeah, man, and the whole thing just got fucked, and we released a song that we didn't even want to release, and it became the first song that everyone heard from that record. And
shit.
Yeah, and it was just this weird situation, and the record came out like 6 months late. We were in the middle of Germany doing festivals, and it just felt so loose. Like, nothing felt like a united front. It was just it kind of dribbled out.
No one had control, it felt like.
No one had control, and the people that, it was the classic story, and you know, I won't dive into it too long because we've talked about it a lot, but like that classic story of the guy who signed you and your product manager and the head of the label, blah blah blah, all this,
and then they're
overnight,
all gone.
And they're fired.
Gone.
I mean,
fired,
how
or
is that?
or in our case, they went to Beats Audio.
Yeah.
The headphone company. And
Everyone. That's happened to fucking everyone.
Yeah.
It's the same
it's-
story. It's so crazy.
the same story, and it's so fucking trite to say, but of course every band says, well, it's not going to happen to us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
And
Because
you
he
know
signed
what?
Jimmy
It-
Eat World.
Yeah, he knows Jim Adkins. He's got a plaque in his office. But yeah, and so, you know, on the flip side of it though, like, we got through that record, and like I said, like, I listen to it now and I'm like, damn, this is sick. And then it put us in a position where we were kind of forced to go back to our roots and to prove to our fan base and to ourselves, hey, we still got this. Like, we weren't swayed by all this public opinion, and you shouldn't be either. And then we recorded a record called Don't Panic, which was kind of right down the middle, really pop punk, and that was with Mike Green. And that kind of set us up for what I like, you know, the second chapter of our band, which we're currently in now. And so, yeah, I mean, that was, that's a long-winded answer to your question, but I think it's just determination of just, okay, we can get through this. You know, we've been through this before. We'll go through it again, and there's not a lot of bands that have had the same guys like you guys have and like we have And that at some point it can be absolutely awful, but it can also just you can rely on each other so much, and I think that's what gets you through these like low points.
Totally. And you kind of know where everyone's head's at in like in a good like that dark shit, like you just have to work through it, and like then the thing after always be like for us, like American Candy was our post dark time, but
Right.
I mean now it's like
What a fucking record.
but it's like a rebirth in a way, and like it's like a
Yes.
you know,
Clean
you feel
slate.
it, and like
Well,
you're like,
yes.
whoa, I feel young again, and I feel the thing happening again.
Like
and-
I remember we talked, I think, in Manila kind of about that, because I think it was kind of like happening for both of our bands at the same time, where it's like,
Yes.
holy shit, like we have these records that like people like they like want us to play only the new stuff. It's like, holy shit,
remember
like
this
is
very well.
This is crazy. Like this is awesome.
Including me. I remember walking into your dressing room and be like, all right, let me see the set list.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah.
no. Okay, we need this one. We need this one. But yeah, you're right. And for people listening, like there's no better feeling as a band member that to work on a record for a year and a half and then to play it live and for fans to want more of that record. And not to say that we don't like playing stuff from older records, whatever, but it's you can't explain that feeling of like fans wanting to hear new stuff right away. Like eventually they're always going to, hopefully they'll want to, but like you said, I remember that day is like we can't play enough new songs. And yeah, what a great feeling.
Yeah, it's it's insane. Did it like when you guys were first kind of, I mean, I think it was on Don't Panic on that album cycle, like, and kind of like the second half of the album cycle that you guys kind of went from being this like club level band, like playing mainly at like House of Blues, and I mean like like some bigger, but to like, you know, all of a sudden you're like playing like every once in a while it's an arena, and then it's an amphitheater, and it's all this stuff. Did that like, could you process that as it was happening, or did it feel like just like the next obvious like step, or did
No,
did it feel like
we
a big
processed
change?
it for sure. Yeah, no, it was it kind of happened at the tail end of Don't Panic and at the beginning of Future Hearts, and I remember the feeling. We were opening the tour in Boston at a place called the Tsongas Arena, and we had done rehearsal there the day before. And I remember like day of show, I was walking around, and you know, when you go from a club area to an arena, the amount of local staff is insane. Like security, ushers, backstage, totally. You know, all this. And I remember walking around, like looking at our production and seeing all these people that are just working there, and it's like more people than you can fit into a club. Like and I remember thinking, fuck, these people are here because of us. Like, and that was a weird thing to trigger that emotion of like, holy shit, this is big. But it was true too. Like it was an empty arena, yet there was 1,000 people working. And I remember just being like, oh my God, this is real. And then of course the anxiety sets in. But no, it was a very, like we spoke about earlier, we take the live show very seriously. And because of that, it means upping our production when we get to bigger rooms. You know, we've seen bands play in arenas, and some people can do it. Like fucking Ed Sheeran can play a stadium with just himself, and every crowd member is just in heaven. You know what I mean? But we're a band that I think needs to kind of keep upping our game for every new venture, every new arena, blah, blah, blah. So it was definitely a huge thought in our mind of how can we bring our show and keep it an all-time low show, but up the ante a little bit. And so it was a very big discussion. Yeah. And then walking on stage and hearing the crowd, it's awful for me. I still get nervous with that shit.
Yeah, and like, what do you think? You know, because I think it's interesting even for like, say, a band right now that's bringing like 500 people that is like hoping to be able to bring a 1,000 people or something, or you know, a photographer that wants to get into doing this. It's like what do you think happened to get you guys over that hump of like you were kind of like had like a certain type of success for like quite a long time, you know, that you sustained, and then all of a sudden there's this jump. Like, what do you think was the cause to that?
I wish I knew, man. And like, you know, in dealing with a lot of these bands that come through my studio, and the next, you know, the question at the last day is, okay, what do we do now? Like, how do we get in front of, like you said, 100 people, 500 people? Mm-hmm. And I always say, like, there's no formula. And the only answer I can give you to, like, how that happened was just not giving up and just keep going and
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Yeah, just maintaining that drive and that it's relentless. Like you guys do it too, the relentless touring schedule, and it takes a toll, but it's such a payoff when you do see like these incremental jumps. And we're very fortunate that we've played in front of 50 people, and then 100, then 500, then 700, then 1,000. We kind of built this from the ground up. I mean, we definitely did. And the sense of, okay, we know what that was like, now what's next, is always such a great feeling to have, of that, the moving milestone. There's no like, okay, when we were 10 years ago, we were like, okay, all I want to do is sell out House of Blues, Cleveland. That's all I want to do in my career. And then you do it and you're like, that wasn't quite enough.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, all I want to do is sell out this 3,000 cap theater. And that's the important part, just always have that drive.
Yeah. And it's
not in like a spoiled way, not like, that wasn't good enough, but okay, we did this, what's next,
But I feel after talking to a lot of, a few people so far, it's like everyone has that feeling though. Because I don't think you can ever be completely satisfied.
Right.
It's like,
I mean,
no.
it's this kind of like imposter thing. Like you kind of always think that you're not like the real deal yet. It's
Totally.
and what's crazy is like we're both in like big bands. I mean, obviously like you guys are on this whole like other level, but like we're both like touring. Like this is our only job.
This is what we do for a living.
For 10 years, and we all have like a good like life because of it. But we all feel like we haven't arrived,
Yes.
well,
it's so
you kind of feel like your shoes are untied and you just keep fumbling around. You're like, I hope this still fucking works.
Yes.
And you're juggling stuff, but like you're somehow still doing it. And it's like, but maybe for a kid in seeing us on stage, it's like, oh, they know what's going on. But like in your head, it's like, I don't fucking know. Like,
no, and that's every job, right? That's like you talk to parents, they say the same thing. Like, I don't fucking know what I'm doing with this kid, but it just works. And it's just. But I think also, with every step that you get a little bigger, and then like, when we're playing, let's say you and I are on tour and we're doing 200 cap bars, and you meet the band playing the 500 cap club upstairs, that suddenly becomes an attainable goal.
Yeah.
They're not on this huge stage, they're your peers.
mm-hmm.
And so then next time you're playing the 500 cap club and you're talking to people across the street loading in for the 1,500 cap House of Blues show, they're suddenly your peers. It's that difference of, holy shit, that's the Maine on stage playing in front of whatever 2,000 people. I could never be that. And then suddenly you're opening up for the Maine, and there's this, this isn't too crazy of an idea.
Yeah,
Totally.
It's that. And so with every step, the next step becomes not just a pipe dream, but it's accessible. And I think that's a big part. So, we go on tour with Blink and they're selling out 30, 40,000 capacity amphitheaters. Do I think we're going to be doing that next year? No. But do I think, okay, we're opening for them right now. We're main support. Why couldn't this be us in a few years? They did it. It just becomes like this, just out of reach, but close enough that it's not crazy.
Yeah,
Totally.
which I think is something that like if people were to take that just in like everyday like life, it's just like that's a big like lesson. It's just like you like you just have to like believe that it's possible, and everything's possible. It's like of course I didn't think that I could be doing this till I just did it.
So much
so
of it's just so much of just doing it
and just
it's
trying and just like not being afraid to fail. It's like, how many bands do you see that don't make it? And like it's in part because they were just like afraid to commit and keep going and fail. And like,
and you have to. None of us would be doing this if the first year of touring we were like, I'm going to do a week and then go off to college for a couple years. Then I'll come back and do 2 weeks. And not to say like that you have to give up your life, but in a way, like just especially these days there's so many bands and music is so accessible that if you don't grind it out for, you don't give it an actual effort like you would with any other job, no one's going in, whatever job you have, your guidance counselor, no one's going in once a week and being like, well, I hope this works. No, you're going in 5 times a week and you're committing your life to it. And this is just like any other job.
I mean, know like people we grew up with that were in bands, like a lot of them that didn't do stuff. They were great musicians, but they just stopped. Right. They just didn't want to go farther, and then that's why they're not doing it. I mean, they could have. I mean, the guys that were in our band at the beginning, it's like that's kind of what happened. It was just like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but they're still doing it now.
This is fun doing it in our yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's so true. And I think it is important too to, a kid sitting in his bedroom playing guitar and listening to this podcast thinking one day I'm going to be on stage at Madison Square Garden. That's a great thought. And I love that. And it's a great end goal, but it's so important to set attainable goals first. Don't make that the end goal. Fine. But let's start with playing in front of 100 people, of which 10 people know your words. Who cares? And that's the way both of us started. Like
totally
on the weekends in high school, we were playing in front of 15 people, and nobody gave a fuck about us. Yeah. But that was our goal: get on stage anywhere.
Yeah,
and then the 15 people sing along, and then it's like
the other cool, the other cool thing is like, we all go from like. It's like, hey, like you're like the biggest like fan in the world of Blink, or we're the biggest fan of whoever, and then all of a sudden like they're kind of your peers, and it's just like, so that shows that like anybody that's like that's listening to this can do something, and it doesn't have to be playing music. It can be working a job that they want or whatever. It's like. Everybody is
there's no
just
difference.
A human.
Yes, we were not gifted this. This was not. My dad is not Mark Hoppus. Like it just it happened. And if you had asked us
just
10,
like
15 years ago, yes, we would have said no fucking way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you guys were just like every other band that was doing a cover of "Damn It," like just like us.
Yes,
and you just like you kept going and got better and better, and it fucking worked out.
And guess what? It wasn't easy, and it's taken us 15 years to get to this point. And like you said, it's taken you guys just as long, and you've had ups and then you've had downs, but it's just drive, and it's like, okay. And then at some point, I mean, being in a band, it's kind of like, all right, well, what the fuck else am I going to do? So might as well keep going.
Yeah. I guess on that, like, how does it, like, where are you at with your emotions of just, like, being you now? Like, being the guy from the band, like how much of that is in your head is like
none of it. It's still like, I think it's so weird that I even have tattoos. Like, you guys know me well enough to know that I'm not like your typical band guy at all. And like the fact that I play drums for a living in any sort of rock band is still foreign to me. And it feels like, I don't know. It just feels like I kind of like stepped into it by accident, and I was like, but it's incredible. I mean, and I think, not to get like too serious, but people underestimate and I don't know if you guys feel this, but like when you're on the road and you're kind of on top of the world, even if it's a rough tour or if you're missing home and family, it still feels fake. Like you're still waking up in a bus in the middle of who knows where and playing drums or playing guitar for a living, and it's incredible. And then the hardest part for me is that first week back at home.
Totally.
The first day is fine. First 2 days is great. You see your friends, see your family, and then you don't really have. It's tough to find a sense of purpose and a sense of belonging when you get home. Like all your friends are working, and that's kind of why I started doing the studio work, is because I needed a sense. I needed something to do at home. I'm not a guy that can just sit at home and play Call of Duty for 6 hours on end.
Yeah, totally.
So emotionally, I think what I'm doing now when I'm home with the studio is 100% product of feeling, I don't know what the word is, but like just feeling like I'm floating and treading water when I'm home.
Yeah, I mean, it's this weird thing. It's like your like identity gets so like wrapped up in like I'm Pat from the Maine. I'm like
from the Maine.
I'm like not just Pat Kirch. I'm Pat from the Maine. And then it's like then you you go home and you have to figure out again, like, well, who's just Pat? Who's like just Pat? Who's not Pat from the Maine?
And it's a tough thing because
it's super hard.
You can't complain because it's a great thing to be Pat from the Maine or Ryan from All Time Low. But and then it's just conversations are just like, it's difficult, man, because it's so hard to relate because touring is so intensely its own world, and you get so wrapped up in it, and your best friends are with you. And then suddenly they're not. And you have to say, someone says, oh, how was tour? And you're like, I don't know, man. How was the past 3 months of your life? Like, wrap that up for me. Like, It's such a it's a weird, it's a learning experience of just being able to take that tour life and then come home and be like, okay, now I'm not on tour anymore, and I'm part of this world again. And what can I do to make this a seamless transition? It took me many years, and then the opposite's true, man. Like, I don't know. Like, I had girlfriend, fiance, and family and all that, and then you just leave for 2 months, and that is impossible too. So
yeah, and
it's a roller coaster.
It's hard to keep like those like relationships going. You know, you're on tour and people are just like continuing on with their life, and then you come home and it's like you have to like remind yourself that like, hey, like I'm the one that's gone. I have to remember to call. I have to remember to like keep these like relationships intact. And
you're so right.
And
it can't be said enough just how much touring is a bubble. Like, even though you're all over the world, we travel more than anyone. But whether you're waking up in Australia, Japan, Rochester, it's just this bubble of the same people, and it's such an interesting thing to like kind of study from the outside, is to think like, how does this work, and how do we make this work when we get home? And anyway, this has gotten off the rails, I guess.
I mean, but I mean,
it's
even takes for me. It's like it takes me like I find myself. I get home and I'm like driving my car for the first time. I'm like, this feels weird, and like, but then like I realize I'm not talking. My girlfriend's in the passenger seat. I'm not saying anything. Like, and I don't know why I do that. And like,
right. And I remember with my ex, like, I would get picked up from the airport, and you know, fuck, we were together 8 years, like, and I remember just thinking, what do I do? What do I talk about? Like, and it's every touring person I talk to, it's like that. Like, the excitement of seeing your loved ones is awesome, and then it's like, oh shit, I'm a human again. Like, what do we do? It's this weird, and it's so hard to kind of articulate what that feeling is. But you're right. You're just sitting in the car and thinking, oh shit, I haven't said anything yet. Like, I'm just in decompression mode.
Yeah. And then you're like, what do I have to say? Like, what do I have?
Where's my day sheet that tells me what to do every second of every day?
Yeah, it's weird. And then like the opposite end is like when you're on tour and you're trying to deal with like your personal stuff. That's also weird and hard because you're in this environment with so many guys, and like, you know, like for me, it's like, you know, whatever, like going through a breakup and then having to like be on tour. It's like, it's hard because you don't want to just talk about it all the time, and then like you're around like, you know, 10 other guys that are just, some of them are just want to have a fun time, or you know, it's right. It's
so, and you also don't want to do this like that on the phone. And so much of your life is a fucking phone. Yeah, and you're like, God damn it! Like, I need to talk to this person in person, and you cannot.
FaceTime is not quite working in this situation. Yeah, but and then to say you're around 10 guys is really being lenient, because you're not around them. They are within 40 feet of you max in this bus. Yeah, where privacy doesn't exist, but. Yeah, it's such a, like, you know, people, we are so lucky to do what we do, and we all know that. But the reality of it is very much overlooked, I think, on both ends, of touring and dealing with that, and then of coming home. It's just very heavy. And I've known so many bands that have stopped touring and stopped playing music because of that, because they can't be away and because they can't maintain relationships. And I completely get it.
Yeah, totally.
Luckily, you know, I think we all grew up in it between the three of us, and so it's kind of all we know. You know, we do know how to maintain relationships to the best of our ability, and it kind of helps that we were fucking going through puberty on a tour bus, you know, figuring this all out.
Yeah, it's you know, and it's one of those things where like we're just getting better and better at it, you know, all the time, and it's, you know, it's to the point where now it's like, hey man, like I can be truly happy like when I'm home and when I'm on tour, you know, it's like, and if there is a weird day,
if there is a weird day or two, so what? Big deal. Like, you're right, you gain life, perspective, and you're exactly right. No one, even people that go have a 9 to 5 and come home for that first 30 minutes and need to sit on their favorite recliner and have a beer, that's the same thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's just figuring, but it is like, it took me years until I like looked at it from outside and was like, okay, this is going to happen, and that's okay. You don't need to force conversation within the first hour of landing from a 17-hour flight. Like, just do what feels natural. The time isn't going anywhere. So
yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. Cool, yeah. Like before we take up your whole day, one of the things I wanted to kind of talk about is like, you know, as we, you know, we're talking about how, you know, we've both been in bands for so long, and you know, we've both built this like consistent career. I think like one of the ballsiest things that like you guys could do is that like, you know, you guys made this new record that totally like it throws out all the rules of what people expect of an all-time low record, and to like do that 14 years into your career for like kind of the first time. I mean, I feel like every other record was like a progression, you know?
Right. And then we had a song or two maybe that was a little outside the box.
And then you know, all of a sudden you make this big like leap. Did it just feel like it had to happen? I mean, and I think it, you know, it worked out in this awesome way where you like, what were you it was one of those things where
crazy. Yeah, the thought of it certainly followed the writing, meaning when we were writing it, this was what came out. And so we'd write a chorus of a song and be like, okay, that's a little darker than usual. Let's figure out what happens next. Mm-hmm. We'd write a verse of another song and be like, damn, that's definitely more ambient than usual. And it kind of just, when things are flowing out of you creatively, it's tough to say no. Even if it is, you know, a risky maneuver. And, but it's just, it's that weird combination of like, you want to write what you love, and it's every now and again you do have to write like, okay, well, we need this kind of song, so let's, you know, bump the metronome to 180 and figure out what happens. But the idea of playing songs that you don't, not that you don't like, but you don't feel on stage is a fucking nightmare to me. And I hate the thought of playing songs night after night after night that I don't love or I don't feel. Mm-hmm. And so whatever we were writing at the time, and Alex would send over demos and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And, you know, we'd add shit to it or do drums to it. And it just kind of is what happened. And the thought of, oh, this record is a little different didn't really happen until like, I don't know, like 6 or 7 songs in. And once it happened, we were like, yeah, but it's fucking cool. Like there was never a sense of, yeah, this record's really dark, but it feels forced. Like it feels like, oh, we were told to write this record or anything like that. It just felt, this is darker and this is more, little more spacey. Like there's a lot more space in between hits and whatnot. But it was always with, yeah, but it's fucking good. And I don't feel weird saying it. Like I love every song on it. And playing them live has just kind of reinforced that fact. I mean, live they're even bigger and better, I think. So the crowd's been reacting really well, and of course the immediate backlash was there, but we could have released anything and the immediate backlash is there. If we had released Future Hearts 2.0, people would be like, well, I just wish they'd progress. You know, that same people that said, oh, they've progressed too much would have said that. So you kind of have to brush off the first week of comments and stuff, and then there's no.
That's a good point. I've never done that. I've never been able to do that.
Yeah. Oh, it's hard, man. But there's no justice like playing it live. You know, that's immediate. And you know, we've had moments where we played songs live, and it was like, maybe next week, you know, it'll be better. But this right away, I mean, luckily we captured the first time we played the song "Dirty Laundry" live in London, and we had it on video, and we mixed a song for it and stuff. But it was at Brixton, which is like a legendary venue, and it was like 5,000 people, and every single one was singing along. And I remember like,
that's sweet.
Those moments are very few and far between where like the whole band sits back and was like, holy shit. And that was, we all go back to that moment. So
that's awesome.
It was a risk, but it wasn't like calculated. It just kind of happened.
Yeah. You know, that's usually when it works, you know, that's like, when it's forced, it's like, you can sniff it. You can sniff the bullshit. And it's like, when it's just happening, it's like people can connect, it's because it's real. It's like really like an emotion that is actually happening, not like, oh, this guy like told me to write this really sad song because this is doing well on the radio. It's like, fuck it. No, like that's not ever going to
it's
work.
It's like force versus flow. You know, this just flows out and it feels right.
Yeah,
and nobody pushed you into this corner. It just kind of came out. So
yeah, I'd be interested. Like, do you know what like as Alex was like writing demos and sending stuff to you like for this record, like what was he listening to? Like
Stranger Things.
Okay.
And I know that's the answer. Is Stranger Things. He talks about it all the time, and he was listening to the soundtrack over and over again, and you know that would force him to listen to more like 80s weird,
totally
dark kind of stuff, and like you know the Juno synth and all this, and they went. He went into like the desert in California and like with a writing camp, and you know basically like 6 buddies, and they had like three or four different stations set up, and he'd pop into a room and write, and then when that got stale, he'd pop into another room while the previous room is working on that track, and like it was just really cool.
Did a bunch of acid,
popcorn session, yeah, man. And then we had our Birkenstocks on. But it was a cool process, man. You know, it wasn't just him in a studio in LA, locked in a room for 8-10 hours a day with the same guy, and it allowed him to kind of like stretch and flex different muscles, so that he's not feeling pigeonholed into one session a day. You know,
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That is.
Well, it's a good
that's
record,
rad.
man.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we're very
Good job.
fucking stoked for it.
And
Way to go.
Now the pressure is like, well, now what the fuck do you do next?
Right now we're just laying back and whatever happens, just letting the waves hit us.
Oh man, that's
Sweet,
awesome.
man. Yeah.
So thanks for taking the time to talk, and
Thanks for the
it was-
therapy session. That was
Yeah.
nice. I feel
Yeah,
good.
this feels
dude.
good.
I feel real
That
good.
was nice.
Let's go write some fucking music.
Yeah. But yeah, it's cool that we're both like right now in our own recording studios. Like
I know.
that's kind of just like the ultimate dream come true.
I love it, man. And, you know, you'd think like, and I talk to people all the time. They're like, "So what do you do in your spare time?" And I'm like, "Oh, I have a recording studio." They're like, "What? Like, don't you just want to get away?" And I'm like, "And do what?" Like,
yeah.
I don't have a hobby. What am I gonna go do?
Yeah.
Rock climb? Like, but no, it's great. I've found such not to use the word therapy again, but I found such therapy and such, it just boosts me and gets me more excited to play live, is like to see all these bands come in, and whether they're their first time in the studio, you know, you guys came in, like everything.
Yeah,
it's just, you can find,
and we
find
and
inspiration.
we acted like it was our first time. You know, we come record to the click track, right? You know,
It was so funny. Everyone looking at each other like, does he know there's a click track there?
Jared sounds like shit.
Yeah, I think at one point I like hit the talk back and I was like, "Hey, Jared, number 3 there is your click track. I don't know if that's all the way down."
yeah, it's just a computer error.
God,
Well, it turned out.
goddamn computers.
Awesome. We'll get back to making this album.
Yeah, I've got like, I see on my security camera, they're just waiting for me in the kitchen.
Fuck.
So
Sorry.
Tell them sorry.
no, I don't care. Let's do another 2. Let's do another 2 hours next week.
All right. Cool.
Cool.
Good.
Thanks,
All
man.
right,
Really
Ryan.
Guys,
appreciate it.
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate
totally.
you.
It's awesome. All right. Talk to you soon.